Welcome to this edition of the Gaming Tailgate Podcast. I am CBJ, joined by JBHuskers Tommy out on assignment. JB, we're talking presentation. How are you doing?
Good. It is coming fast and furious now. We got presentation today, Dynasty tomorrow. So we're really starting to cook now because, well, it's almost July.
We have to be.
We better be. Yeah.
And this is more of an open-ended question. Where's the marketing? We're less than 2 weeks. I would expect to see signage in stores here soon, maybe online advertisements. We haven't got there yet. Maybe by the end of the week, that'll start showing up.
There was not anything for TV ads last year
Mm.
in its return after many years away. So I wouldn't expect to see many TV ads for it.
No.
Of course, sports are dying down with NHL and NBA done. College World Series just wrapped up. So, we're basically down to Major League Baseball for 2 months for the most part. And so that might be part of the reason why they are not really on television, just because there's probably not going to be many people watching sports in the casual crowd unless they're a diehard baseball fan.
And think about it, leading up to early release, we have 4th of July weekend. Very few people will be watching TV that weekend. So if marketing doesn't kick in end of this week and next week, we're probably not getting anything.
If they're not watching TV already at this time of the summer. So
as always, make sure you go to the gamingtailgate.com, click on the information central page for College Football 26. Every news story, every article, every feature announced, we list them out. It's tough to keep up with the news, so let us do it for you. Visit Info Central and you'll say update on the game. And make sure you share that with your friends and family. It's an easy way to keep up to date with all the latest game news and information. JB, let's talk about, I know this wasn't mentioned in the presentation blog today. It was mentioned as part of the Dynasty Tease, part of Dynasty, what we'll get tomorrow. But let's talk about this trophy room real quick. JB, what were your thoughts first when you saw this trophy room, and then as you thought about it more? Because I know my opinion changed from first take to thinking about functionality and appeal of it.
Well, I'm glad it exists. I'm glad it's there. The level of if that's all the level of detail we're going to get, just the day you earned it and what team you got it with, not a player or anything like that in terms of individual. We'll have to wait and see on that. Obviously, this is just the national championship trophy, and it's all. So, there's some things they could do to it, but it's also not really a trophy room. It's a picture of a trophy on a wall.
I joked it's not a trophy room, it's a trophy memorial.
It's a picture of a picture. But it's better than nothing.
Yes.
Hopefully we have more detail like on the individual sides of things with like the Heisman, the Biletnikoff, things like that. But hey, it's better than what we had in 25, which was nothing. So
right. I say when I first saw this, just seeing the design of it and look of it, I think it looks awesome. However, I kind of spent some time thinking, okay, as it relates to, say, for example, my current online dynasty, the one that we're competing in, how would I like to view this? My thought was, I hope that on this left side where it says Dynasty, will there be any kind of sub filters, maybe to view by online Dynasty and team? You go back to the example Tommy mentioned a couple episodes ago. I didn't pull up before the show. I should have. There's a great picture of Barry Alvarez. Every trophy he earned while at Wisconsin. He's staying in this room. He's in the middle. The trophies surround him. Something that would be very cool. With the functionality wise here, you don't get to see all your trophies, which I understand that could be difficult if you have a lot of trophies earned. But I think in terms of screen sharing, this may not have the most appeal because you can only show about 12 of them, it looks like, at a time. It goes to the point, like you said, it's not really a trophy room. It's more of a trophy memorial. Like, who are we pretending to be when we look at this? Because if a coach wants to show a recruit his trophies he's earned, he's not taking them to a museum. He's taking them to a trophy case in the trophy room. Am I a rich donor? Did they give me pictures and oil paintings of trophies? I'm trying to minimize or diminish the work they put in. I'm just not seeing what the vision was when they got here. Besides, maybe it was easier to do 2D images of the trophies with these frames versus 3D images.
Easy way out.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of why, and I think that's what it is. The community, a lot of things I've seen about this is that they really wished on this right side for the national championship, for example. Who did you beat? What was the score? Maybe even a player of the game. And I understand you can't show every stat in the world there, but I don't know that showing opponent and score is too unrealistic. Just so you have that memory. Oh yeah, I remember I had that great game, or that game I blew out this team. I mean, there's room to improve, and I did see some people say that this is something that they felt this was copying something from Ultimate Team. I never saw a reference to what they feel like this is stealing or copying from Ultimate Team.
I haven't played Ultimate Team much lately, but over the past few years, but it could be It could be your collection, your card collection.
Hmm.
But this is obviously a different thing here, but it could be your card collection or achievements within Ultimate Team possibly. I know they keep track of that. That could be something like that possibly. I don't know. Now we of course obviously we got Dynasty coming on Tuesday the 24th, and hopefully maybe Online Dynasty is going to have their own little trophy room with everybody involved, and
Hmm.
we just don't know about it yet.
Right, right.
Because we don't know if Dynasty includes online or if this is just all offline. Because I mean, if you're looking at this, these just look like offline stuff
Minus,
outside of yeah. And the
mm,
rivalry trophies, that could just be offline too if you're just playing the computer. So is it what
there's
you've
more info to
earned?
come.
Yeah. So hopefully online has a little something, maybe a little more detailed even. Well, it's going to be something that'll hopefully be revealed on the next day's blog, but and video that are coming with it.
Mm.
But at least this is a good start to something we didn't even have in 25.
And this art style just to me lends itself for the final point here. A lot of college football programs for their All-Americans or award winners, like Nebraska does this, for example, they have in their West Stadium paintings of all the award winners, like the All-Americans and Heisman winners. I couldn't help but think, boy, if they had, they did some kind of artifact to the player faces, like if you win an All-American with somebody, it keeps it somewhere and you get their name and stats over here. How cool that would be. That's what this art style to me is like. It's cool for the trophy room, but it'd be way cooler for individual award winners. But hey, maybe next year. Today, the big one, the presentation deep dive. No video with this, just a blog, a pretty lengthy blog written by design director Christian Brandt and also, I believe, audio director Torsten Staley. We will go through some of this blog, obviously not all of it. If you want to read it, go to the gamingtailgate.com. There's an article there, and also the Information Central will have a link to it and all the points, bullet points pulled out of this to see all the presentation elements added. The big one right off the bat, dynamic time of day. Initially, we were calling this dynamic lighting or progressive lighting. EA's official term for this dynamic time of day, a game changer, as they say. This is a pretty popular request, especially as it relates to the Rose Bowl. People wanted that game to start in the late afternoon, end at night. Looks like we will be getting that. There's two elements to the time of day, as they put it, regional and seasonal. Regional being that as their example says here, 6 p.m. kickoff in Chestnut Hill for Boston College will look different than 6 p.m. kickoff in Austin, Texas. And then seasonal, games in November will get darker sooner than those in September. So that's pretty cool. Reminds me back to the '08 days. You remember when they announced '08 JB and the lighting? They talked about how they work with NASA to get the sun in the exact right spot for every stadium. I don't know if it's exactly the same way here, if we're down to the detail where NASA helped give them feedback, but still a very welcome addition.
Yeah, especially with the regional. Obviously, the time or the seasonal, the time of day, we kind of expected that
Mm-hmm.
when that was announced. But having seasonal time of day is very cool because you're
Mm-hmm.
going to see your afternoon kickoffs go into nighttime, not just your nighttime kickoffs. So I think that's very cool. Addition to something I didn't expect. So they kind of went a little above and beyond in terms
Mm-hmm.
of what to expect in this. And especially, now we're playing in 4K. So it's going to be exciting to see a lot of the transitions and then, of course, some other presentation items that are later in this blog.
And it's worth noting there's no dynamic weather. I believe that did come out that Madden will have that, College football will not. So I'm assuming that will probably be the next one of the bigger presentation requests for 27, which is understandable. But as you said, it's going to make right now the games to me, they feel like they're get kind of long sometimes because the lighting is the exact same at kickoff. It is in the last, few minutes of the fourth quarter. This should make it feel like you're actually progressing and moving through. And I'm assuming that this advances at the quarters. I don't know if we've heard for sure if it's, middle quarter or end of quarters. So I would assume at least between the quarters. So it's a very, very welcome addition. New runouts. This is we knew there were different pregame entrances, but we didn't know how that worked until today's blog. There are several different types. The big one is an epic runout, and it's worth noting in this blog. Those are saved for the special night games across iconic locations. Basically, a night game, if it's a big game, you're gonna get some extra stuff for the pregame for the runout. That could include, and we'll get to that, a light show, could be a drone show. You could have fans holding up their phones. They want those night games, as I think we've kind of heard and figured out from every piece of media they put out. This year, the night game is really what they've stressed and wanted to be important and big.
Which is interesting because then when you look at like the Big Ten and they're actually going the complete opposite.
because
where
of
the big
Fox.
games, yeah, the big games at noon. But
Right.
maybe they will change their tune on that once, with all these schools starting to do these special things at night. They want to have more night games
Mm.
to be able to do this. And so, maybe they'll eventually change their tune with Fox and make it noon the big one instead of the night games. I'm sure the students probably rather have a night game than
Yes,
a
yes.
noon game, so
Just pretend
I
the game's on
yeah.
Peacock because
Yeah,
they
yeah.
have the name. Pretend it's a big Peacock game and not a Fox game, and you'll be okay.
No kidding.
Light shows, some of those we kind of knew about. I won't go through that list. They did say it's tailored to reflect the school's traditions and stadium vibe, which to me implies we try to get realistic, but it may not be 100% for what your school does. They give examples: Alabama, that stadium being red. We've seen that screenshot in the trailer. Tennessee, the T is lit up. We already saw that in the screenshot, so nothing new there. Also, North Carolina, spotlights across the field. That also we saw in the trailer, so nothing new there. Drone shows, interesting. They mentioned Ohio State and some of the schools that have that. We saw that also in the reveal trailer. Here's an example of Ohio State. And I thought it was interesting. There was a community member who asked, not related to us, but into EA, their response on their thread said, well, Ohio State, do they even do it? I did a Google search for their home playoff game. They did a drone show, and I believe it was listed as the largest collegiate drone show ever. They had 500 drones for that. And the reason is not every school does it. It's expensive. I'm pretty sure it's like
Hmm.
six-figure show. As far as I know, Texas is the only school that does this basically every game. Of course, they have Texas money, so that's a little different. But a lot of these bigger programs, like Nebraska, has done it for night games. Ohio State has done it. So that is something that I think will make big games feel bigger as part of the runouts. We also have standard runouts. To me, to summarize that, that sounds like College Bowl 25. That's what a standard,
Yeah.
now EA says that is a standard runout. They mentioned a few schools that got some improvements. Ohio and Utah will have motorcycles leading the runout. South Carolina, EA on their X feed put out the cockaboose arriving in the stadium along with the theme from 2001: A Space Odyssey getting added in, and the Sooner Schooner also coming to the game. It's worth noting here in this blog, what I thought was kind of funny. This entire paragraph on the runout mentions how they added Oklahoma State's entrance. They go through and talked about how they started with 7 players behind a custom gate that matched the size of Oklahoma State's real gate that they come out through. And they talk about how they recorded it several times with the players to get a full roster through. And they said, check out the end result. And it's the South Carolina video. We didn't get to see
Wah
Oklahoma
wah.
State. So I don't know if that was a mistake or they meant to update that paragraph and never got to it, or if it exists somewhere and we'll see it later. Quick runouts. This is basically sounds like if you don't want to run out, obviously the road to CFP guy, the online guys generally don't want an entrance. They want to get their games in and done quickly. It also mentions that you might also see these in Dynasty mode if you're playing an unranked CPU opponent at home, which makes sense. Then you can kind of pretend this probably game isn't on TV. I'm not seeing it. And obviously, it doesn't make the game feel any bigger than it really is. A big one here, Road to Glory runouts. What's interesting here is that you're the player in the tunnel. Christian, who wrote this blog, that is his character, and they have you on that lower point of view. And what's really cool, and we didn't get to see this quite in action, but they've mentioned that you can use your right stick. I suppose when you come out through the field, maybe in the tunnel, I don't know, use the right stick, you can look around. So it really is you as that player, and you can look around and just soak in the moment. This is something that Tommy and he did provide us some notes, his feedback on thoughts on presentation. He said this is a welcome surprise. It could make it a lot more engaging, especially when you transfer or change teams. What do you think about this? I think it's pretty cool. I'd say something here in this angle looks really realistic, minus the player moving here that's blurry. But I noticed when I first saw this picture, I'm like, this looks really sharp. This looks really good.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool addition to Road to Glory, especially
Mm.
with the special entrances. If you have one of those teams that have a special entrance, but even just a generic entrance, just kind of having the feeling of going onto the field and seeing the field come alive within Road to Glory from your perspective, and being able to look around and take it in. I think it's a very cool addition, especially for those that are very detail oriented when it comes to college football. Also, maybe for like your streamer that's going to do a career and such,
Hmm.
and they're showcasing them taking it in as they're showing off their entrances. So I think overall it is a very great addition to Road to Glory.
Band formations. We're gonna get pregame band formations for teams. They say they list about 5 and then many more. That kind of harkens back to the PS3 days when we had band entrances as well. Mascots and traditions. This is a big one here. They've expanded the costumed mascots. I will not go through the list. If my math skills are right, which take with a grain of salt, I counted about 37, give or take, costume mascots. 25 had 40. So give or take, we have 77 costume mascots in coming to EA Sports College Bowl 26 in total. There is one mention of a live mascot that would be, and we saw this in the reveal trailer, Texas Tech's masked rider on the horse. Otherwise, all the rest of these, and there were several mascots I was kind of confused on because the live mascot and the costume mascot had the same name. Christian Brandt did reply to our question on X, so we appreciate that. I'm sure he's going to enjoy getting a shootout tomorrow. Those guys are blacklisted. Don't answer them in the future. But it was nice that they clarified the 3 4 schools that had the same name for the costume and live are all costumed. And those were like Navy, SMU, Army, Colorado State. And worth mentioning here, JB, we did not get a picture, but my friend here, the Pop Tarts Bowl mascot, kind of leaked over the weekend. One of the YouTube creators got a little too hyped. The Pop Tarts Bowl mascot will be in the game.
As he should. He's
Mhm.
the star of that bowl game. So
I think it's interesting here. I'm going to ask you this, JB. Yeah, after 25 came out, when it comes to, feedback from the community, I thought there was probably a 60% chance mascot mashup would be in the game. And then the college football media and the preferred YouTube creators went down to the event this year, and they came back and they were under the impression that it's not in the game. Now, I don't know. They obviously I don't think get to go through menus. It wasn't presented to them. They said it's not. My thought now after reading this blog, and there's some schools now that have two costume mascots. For example, Arizona, Wilbur and Wilma Wildcat joined the lineup. NC State has Mrs. Wolf joining the game. I don't know if the male version is in the game already. I guess I'd have to double check. So just based on Arizona having two mascots, it kind of tells me one of these several scenarios is true. Either they added in and recorded mocap sessions for two mascots, which is entirely possible. Maybe the game just randomly picks one of the two to exist in the current mascot animations, which also is a very possible thing. Or now that we have 77 plus costume mascots and no picture of the Pop Tarts mascot, could mascot mashup be a late announce? It's something that I don't like. I never say this to diminish, but casual fans really love mascot mashup. This seems like to be a great late announcement if they want to bring in a lot of people, and maybe that's why they're saving the picture of the Pop Tart mascot to say for either marketing efforts or maybe part of a potential reveal. Personally, I would only say there's a 20% chance of it being in, but that's more than the zero I would have told you about a week ago. Do you think it could be a surprise announcement?
I don't know about a full-on mascot mashup, but maybe something
Mm.
with the Pop-Tarts character because
Mm.
obviously otherwise you're only going to see him once if you're in that particular bowl game.
Right.
So you think there's going to be a little something more done at least with him
Mm.
in regards to the mascots now, whether that be this game's presented by Pop Tarts and he's just on the field for a
Good
night
point.
game or something, that could be a
Mm.
possibility. But mascot mashup is definitely something to possibly talk about when you're adding so many, but
Mm.
also you have, one of the more popular ones from, you don't really see anything come out of a bowl game like that outside
Mm.
of maybe you're dumping the mayo on the coach or something in the Duke's
Right.
Bowl.
There's a
So
handful of them, but you're right.
yeah. And so for, obviously this guy, kind of caught the social media world by storm with his
Mm.
debut. And so now adding him into the game, I'm wondering if he's just going to be a bigger part of the game as a sponsorship. Otherwise, I don't see just adding him to see him at the end of the year for one game. I think
Mm.
there's got to be something more to it, whether it be that or mascot mashup. Because of course now you got some
Mm.
schools, like you said, Arizona's got two of them, and
Mhm.
then you can have Arizona fans have one mascot take on the other, and
Right.
so
Yeah, there's
it,
something there too that we don't know yet, I feel.
yeah,
Could be wrong, but there's
yeah,
something they've added. We just don't know how grand it is. I will say I did the math on it a little bit. If they keep going at this 35 to 40 costume mascots a year, it'll be College Bowl 28 before we get all of them. So I'm
well,
just telling people now that they're doing their 40 next year. We still don't have the 136.
tell more teams get added to.
Yeah, they'll never catch up. Uh, Touchdown and turnover traditions. Yeah, these are interesting. We knew about some of these, like the Arizona turnover sword, for example, the Akron turnover tire. We saw a picture of the TCU frog horn. I'm hoping that sound effect is also included. The Oklahoma State paddles, which we heard about, but you have yet to really see in full detail, besides a quick glimpse in the reveal trailer. Nebraska, this is interesting. We're two local guys, so we can talk on this. They put it as after a touchdown, Nebraska fans release balloons into the sky, creating a cherished visual celebration. And JB, you had a good comment about that before the show started.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's only after the first touchdown because they don't have an unlimited supply of balloons. Though half the time we may only score one touchdown. Yeah, that's only after the first one.
Yeah, it's
So,
only after the first score, technically, isn't it? Because I think after a field goal, people, if it's the first
yeah, I
score,
guess. Yeah,
some people like to hold on
a
to it
lot
for
of
the
people will hold
touchdown.
on to them, yeah.
Yeah, but
But
it's
yeah, you basically would purchase it from outside the venue.
yeah,
So it's not like you're going to leave the game to get another balloon and wait for the next
yeah.
touchdown. Because they won't allow reentry
No, this
anymore
year they
with
don't. Yep.
because we're selling beer finally.
So it'd be interesting to see how. I'm glad it's in the game because that's a tradition that I'm getting the way in the weeds here. Previous AD got rid of it. Current AD said no, we're going to bring that back for some games. So I'm very glad to see that, and I can't wait to see that in action. It's going to look very cool. We have a new player body type of lean coming to the game. They mentioned Aiden Childs was kind of be the, I don't want to say inspiration, but at least he's the one that kind of, if you want to look for a lean body type, that's who you need to be looking at in real life to see what might be coming to the game. They mentioned jersey deformation and wrinkle simulation. They talk about using machine learning for that. And in this picture, I'm not a massive equipment head. I'm not opposed to it. I'm kind of indifferent on it. A padded sleeve. We did know from Equipment Guru did respond to somebody on Twitter a few weeks ago and said that four of the padded sleeve types that were in Madden 25 are coming to College Bowl 26. I think it was interesting, JB. I don't know if you kept up with all the drama over the weekend about the equipment stuff. Fill anybody in with make it a 20-second, summation. The equipment guys are some of them are getting tired of not getting answers on what's coming to the game. Some took it too far with insulting the team and equipment guru about it. And a guy he can't put him in single handedly. But I do understand some of the frustration. Some of the guys waited for the blog today thinking they would get some word on some equipment items coming to the game. Then the blog comes out and there's zero mention of equipment. It seems like I don't know if it was intentional on EA's part to poke these guys. I mean, I don't think they would. It just feels like it's a vicious cycle. That there's not a lot of patience on the community side. EA's not really throwing them a bone either.
Yeah,
Oh,
those people got to realize that they are more than a minor vocal minority. Not the casual crowd is gonna go with what is in the game. Though it is good to have those details, is it worth, adding into a blog? Maybe, but at the same time, this is a very vast minority of people on Twitter complaining, and the majority of the crowd is not even going to notice.
I think it depends what it is. Last year they made a pretty big point. I think it was in the Road to Glory blog. I'd have to go back and check. They mentioned, how you could swag your player out, and they were pretty proud of all the options they put in, like the hooded stuff, especially like some of the stuff you don't really even see in real life a whole lot. I wish they'd have thrown him a couple bones. And it makes me think that maybe some of the top requests didn't get in. So they're trying to avoid pulling off that band-aid. They don't want to tell them like, hey, like the single leg sleeve is one of the big ones. I wouldn't think it'd be tremendously difficult considering you already have leg sleeves in. So now you just modify it so it's left leg or right leg. But granted, I'm
It's
not a designer, so maybe it's way harder than it looks. But I wish they'd thrown him a bone.
it
Give him a few things in this blog to at least start getting the truth out there.
well, it's also something you could probably throw into a Road to Glory blog too, because
Right.
that's where you're going to want to probably do it the most in is
Mhm.
your own player. So
Right. I just say Kumaguru did respond to somebody today and say that they didn't really want to blast out a long list of what they added today, which I get. You don't want to put everything because that might get boring in a blog. But as someone did reply, then what's the point of a deep dive? So I see both sides of it. They should
yeah,
throw something out there for those
that's
guys.
true.
I do feel their pain. In this blog, then we get a screenshot of Boston College. The New Balance is in the game. I don't know if you know that New Balance now is the apparel manufacturer for Boston College. So we didn't get a picture of the uniform, but we did get a picture of the New Balance cleats in the game. And it's funny that this blog actually kind of revealed some Road to Glory stuff. For example, high school teams will have a mix of classic and modern styles. They mentioned you can import custom teams from Team Builder. That was something we didn't know until today. They mentioned that they're working on uniforms, which is no, nobody doubted that one. I mean, that's fine. They mentioned some fixes. I wish they had gone into more. They only mentioned the colors on Arizona's maroon helmet and the nameplate clipping on the stripes on LSU's jerseys. I wish they had mentioned there's nothing about field art. That's something that they updated zero field art last year. I wish they had mentioned here, like, some of the new field arts coming to the game. I know they did that back in the day with NCAA football presentation blogs. Wish we had got that. They mentioned head coaches with the likenesses. which is great. I wish we could get more than seeing Ryan Day every time. 'Cause, I've seen that
He
enough
slipped
times.
them a 20, didn't he?
I say we've seen that enough. But I know he's in the game, guys. He
We
looks
know he's
good.
in the game. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Big one here. Andy Staples kind of let this out of the bag before. Long story short, 1,700 new heads for secondary characters, so those crowds are gonna look a little better, a little more realistic. It's one of those small things, but you play the game enough and you realize the crowd looked kind of weak, and that was a pretty big community complaint. They got tired of seeing the same four people at every game, so that has been rectified. On the audio side here, Torsten talks about the commentary, and it's great. They 200 additional hours in the booth, 15,000 new lines. But as Tommy mentioned right away to us, and we noticed as well, they don't specifically say much about Fowler, and I know they can't come out and bury the guy and say, now this year Fowler 2.0 and now with emotion.
With
But it
more excitement.
would have been nice if they could have worded it as something as worked on
That's it.
emotion. There's ways to word it without throwing him under the bus.
Or
It would have
just
been
let
nice to
us
hear.
wait and see, you know.
They mentioned about that commentary is a little smarter. They mentioned, as they put it here, creating talking points about postseason results from the previous year. They will check in on national ranking check-ins, reliance on the portal, your recruiting results, and how you as a player are progressing through an individual game. So it sounds like the commentary will be a little smarter and look at history in some regards or your standing basically in the college football world. Music, this was a big one, JB. The drum line, bad news, still exists. Good news is they've added way more cadences to the drum line. Plus, more importantly, when it comes to the menus, you're going to get licensed songs played by bands. The Auburn Marching Band will now do a cover of the college football theme song. So the menu should sound a lot better this year.
Sandstorm, please.
That's still in there. I don't believe that went
Good.
away. They mentioned this blog.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool to have the bands
Mm,
record recent hits and have those
yep.
versions be in the game. Yeah, that boy, that drum line, hearing that thing for how many hours? I don't know, over the past year, I don't
And
know.
I
But
turned that off on mine
it,
because
it's played it plays in my sleep sometimes.
and the worst part is like you streamed it on YouTube, you got dinged for copyright on that.
Really? Oh
Yeah,
man.
there was the claim I believe was by Duke. So apparently the Duke drumline must have been the one that recorded it. That's something hopefully EA gets that straightened out for 26th. Always people are going to turn off right away, and all this work will be for nothing. So
Yeah.
160 new chants. Interesting. They added some for High School and Road to Glory. They added a new fight songs. They mentioned Maryland and Bowling Green, getting some of those. The crowd will now sing along to some songs. For example, they mentioned Mr. Brightside. The crowd sings along with. Same with Mo Bamba. So that's going to sound great. Um,
Next one up on docket for 27, probably top of the list, got to be Jump Around.
I said a lot of people are asking for it. That's got to be for licensed songs. Also, they for to improve the crowd noise, they used more game audio that they got from their partnership with ESPN. So they mentioned getting LSU and Oregon to sound even more intense. So that should be a big boost. It sounds like they really want the home field and everything to really stand out. All new in-game broadcast graphics, which I think we knew to some extent from the beta leaks and from the limited screenshots we've gotten so far. We did have a community member ask us, what about halftime shows? I assume if there is any kind of increased halftime show, we'll find out in the Dynasty video. We know that they did something with camera angles because we saw that in the gameplay trailer, that Penn State clip. And I even saw one of the preferred YouTube content creators mention that if I understood him correctly, it's almost an option for a new camera angle to make sure that you can see sideline to sideline on some of those plays. But this blog didn't mention it, which I thought maybe gameplay would. They did not. I thought, okay, if gameplay didn't, presentation would. Still have not heard. And I've heard other mention from, CFB Media, for example, there's something with camera angles coming. I don't know if that means just new ones. I don't know if that means custom. I don't know. I think it was interesting that the two blogs that should have mentioned it didn't.
Yeah, I wonder if it's going to be something with, especially with those tricky formations. I wonder if it's going to be something like a drone, like a free-form drone camera that you
Like
could just,
Skycam.
yeah, that you could just coast from left to right on.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they've had two golden opportunities to mention it, and they haven't. So it
Yeah,
looks
you
like we
figure
might be.
this would be the time to do it, would be
Mhm.
this blog. But, maybe they're going to have their own little micro mini blog or something coming out here in the next couple of weeks talking about it. Then if it's gonna maybe if I mean if it's a big on its own type of deal, then maybe they'll throw a quick one out there.
With that, we'll wrap up this edition of the Gaming Tailgate Podcast. That's presentation. Make sure you go to thegamingtailgate.com. Click on that EA Sports College Football 26 Information Central. Everything in one place, and I'm sure it's going to get even busier this week now with Dynasty News coming out. That's the big one I know you and I are really excited for, and Tommy as well. So we'll be back again tomorrow night to break that down. Check out the Info Central. If you enjoy this podcast, leave a 5-star review. If you don't like it, leave a 5-star review, and then email us podcast@thegamingtailgate.com and let us know what we can do better. For Tommy and JB, I am CDJ. Everyone, thank you for watching and listening to this edition of the Gaming Tailgate Podcast.